Okay, so this starts our section on mapping data with Tableau. I'm very excited that you're with me here, and this is a very interesting topic, and I think you're going to get a lot out of this. So in this section, we're going to introduce mapping in Tableau. We're going to create a standard map view. We're going to address mapping errors, which is always an issue when doing any type of data analysis, not just mapping. We're going to customize standard map views, and we're going to use filters in the maps. So this video is going to cover introduction to mapping in Tableau. And in this video, we're going to learn about the following: Tableau's integration with spatial data, some of the important terminology around geography, as you can see there, some fun examples of maps done in Tableau that are available in Tableau Public, and finally, some common map types that Tableau is capable of. So let's first talk about Tableau's integration of mapping. Tableau's integration of mapping is quite robust. So most visualization software does, like bar charts, scatter plots, etc. What Tableau does is actually not just be able to do maps sort of at an elementary level, but actually at a pretty advanced level, and is quite impressive, the capabilities of Tableau spatial and geography capabilities. So by integrating regular visuals like bar charts or maps, you can answer questions like where as opposed to why or how. It's also really powerful. You can integrate powerful data in spatial data sets, or you can encode custom geocoding to develop custom maps. And so it's a really powerful tool, and I think if you really get into mapping, you can almost use it as a basic GIS tool. So if you're heavily into mapping, Tableau is really a great solution. So let's now get into a bit about the mapping terminology, because there's a lot of unique terms out there that you may not be familiar with, but of course you may be. So the first is the geographic role. Tableau calls a geographic role any field such as state or province or postal code or address or anything as a geographic role. And if Tableau detects it or you set it up, then Tableau will automatically create a latitude and longitude unless there are errors. And sometimes it assigns the wrong latitude and longitude. So any geographic role is something that has a globe. And we're going to see that as we get into this section. What is the identifier for geographic, or how you can create other geographic fields. The next terminology is shapefile, and I usually call shapefiles. So my experience of GIS was quite a few years ago, and since then, I think the terminology has changed. Shapefile was actually dubbed by a company called ArcGIS that created a package of 3 files that allow you to basically do any of the mapping. Google uses something called a KML format, which is akin to an XML format. In fact, as an aside, Tableau actually uses a version, very rough version. I don't want to get in trouble here by saying that it's using a similar type, but the whole idea is an XML type format. And so Google uses KML for their geography. ArcGIS uses shapefile. It's basically the same type of thing. And there are ways to convert it between the two of them. And Tableau is actually able to import shapefiles or KML files into Tableau and to do custom mapping. And finally, a raster. A raster is a set of data used to define the shape and contour of a map. So if you are mapping something that is a very small area, let's say you're mapping a creek bed or a hillside, and you have all of these very important geographical features, like an elevation, for example, may affect the shade that a plant can grow in a creek bed or near a creek. And so you really need to know all of those details. And a raster contains that in the form of data, which is quite cool. It's a sort of a table or a series of tables that has this information. And when you load it in, all of a sudden it shows up. So it's a very cool way to show that. And again, Tableau can handle that. We're not going to get into this because this is the idea, is to be able to give you the confidence to go in and do Tableau stuff, but information is available around that can help you. So let's go ahead and see some cool examples of Tableau maps. So these are all taken from Tableau Public, and you can see the URL right here. It's public.tableau.com. So the first one is scrolling a little bit. So this is called the toughest places for a girl to get an education. And if you notice the way, it's kind of a cool way of doing a map. It actually has the world plotted on a map here. I don't want to ruin this too much, but I do want to draw here. So you can see the contour. This is kind of like Africa a little bit. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble here trying to draw Africa. It kind of looks like it. But you have Africa and you have the Americas here, which is much even harder to draw. Oops. Right. So you have all of these regions without any boundaries, be able to detect patterns where education is very difficult if you're a girl. And you can see South Asia, that's almost certainly India. Then there's parts of Africa where it's very difficult. And so it sort of shows you it in a very easy format. And then you have to scroll down, and it's kind of cool. This is the way a lot of the web is designed now, sort of the cooler websites, as it were. And you can go down and scroll. Sorry that I'm scrolling and you're not scrolling, so you have to depend on my scrolling here to see some of these very well done visualizations that really give you a sense of where some of the poverty traps are for women in terms of education and what the potential is, including integrating a lot of non-spatial visualization, but very enticing. I especially like this version of a pie chart. This is really a cool pie chart. It isn't a regular pie chart, but it has this little moon-like thing on it. So it's a very innovative way of doing visualizations. The next one, it doesn't go to full screen, so I'm showing you like this. Sorry about that, but it's on the public website. You can actually see the URL. And if you hover, this is a picture of evictions across the US, and you can immediately see there's patterns specifically in near Arizona and this area here, which is the South, the southern states, where there's deep pockets of poverty. And then in Michigan, almost exclusively the state of Michigan, there's a lot of evictions from housing. And so that points to some concerns about housing shortages in the area, or very strict laws that sort of tilt towards landlords. So it's very nice to be able to see this very quickly in a visualization. I click on here on Alabama, which is a southern state. You can see some of the patterns of eviction there. So let's go to our final example, which is developed by the European Environment Agency, which is part of the European Union. And here you can see a very nice summary of how you could see the map on the left here, which has, and then on the right, a bar chart. So it's shown here, and you select a country, and then the bar chart changes depending on which country you choose. And then you can also choose different types of pollutants up here, be chosen here. And then you can also choose a sector over here. So now let's go to the common map types that Tableau offers to give you a sense of what you can do. These are the most basic of each type of Tableau map that's available. The first is called a filled map. This is what we're going to be doing a lot of, which is also known as a choropleth map. I kind of like choropleth because it sounds fancier, but it's really just a filled map. Shows the data by each geographic region. The second one is called a proportional symbol map. We're also going to do an example like this, and it increases the size of a bubble usually, depending on the amount. In this case, this is obviously the Ring of Fire earthquake zone, where it shows the intensity of earthquakes and the frequency, both the intensity and frequency of an earthquake in a geographic space, which is a very efficient way to show data. The next one is called a point distribution. It shows geographic clusters, and it's roughly equivalent to a scatter plot. So it's a disaggregated data that are plotted on a map to show you where there's really big clusters. The next one is called flow maps. This is about cyclones and how cyclones move across the Pacific towards the South China Sea. So it's a very nice illustration of flow maps. And the final type of map is a path. We call it a spider map. And it shows, in a way, it's similar to a proportion. So you have, this is the Paris metro, and it shows the intensity of use of a particular metro stop along the metro or the subway line in Paris. So it's a very neat way to illustrate what the pattern of use is in transportation.